I don't know a great deal about the Danish scene. How would you describe it?
The Danish scene.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
from a let's narrow it down. We'll go from a metal perspective, but even from a wider perspective, like what are popular genres? Like what's really big there at the moment?
yeah. So metal's a big thing. There's a lot of super active bands, very ambitious about the whole music career thing. But I think yeah, we're kind of we exist kind of separate from that, so we're not super involved in that scene anymore. But it's alive and well and thriving, especially in Copenhagen.
Mm.
Uh, but I
And
think yeah,
actually, sorry, in Aarhus, there's we have a long history of death metal bands, especially like really widely active and touring all over the world, and maybe too long living death metal bands, like with there's only one original member, and then there's been like 20, I don't know how many replacements, but just like endless stream of just new guitarists and new singers and so on. But we have a long history back with the death metal bands. Yeah. Um, yeah, actually, it's yeah. We as Boston, he's saying, Alex is saying that we are not like a part of the metal scene in that way because we are kind of different act, but there's a really tight kind of community in different end of the metal genre perspective. Definitely, we just like the odd ones out, kind of.
Yeah, I think that's what immediately attracted me to you guys when I first heard the Primordial Blues, and I remember thinking it sounds like are you familiar with the band Mastodon?
oh yeah,
Yeah, their
Yeah,
first album, Call of the Mastodon, back when they were very sludgy, and it
nice
reminded me
call.
of that being played by the Dillinger Escape Plan. You know,
that's spot on,
That's
man.
that's beautiful. I
there you
think
go.
that's the best description I've ever heard of Ox. I think, or at least the one I like the most. So
You
thanks,
are
man.
welcome. Yeah, the particularly the opening of just that amazing piano, and then it's just starting with this really off kilter drums, and then woof, like we're just off. Like it feels almost that you guys aren't really a metal band. You're more of an art band that just happens to make heavy sounding music almost. Yeah, I don't know. It was strange
I,
to me.
I, I definitely think that's fair.
Mm.
And that's a recurring criticism that we run into quite often as well. Like some people like it, but most, or yeah, a loud minority, or yeah, a lot of people are annoyed by it as well. But I really like what you said about the whole Dillinger playing Mastodon thing because I think that's one of the core tenets that we strive for. The whole doing super geeky, mathy shit, but trying to keep it, I don't know, grounded or a bit more earthy, undercutting it by playing slower shit as well, having the production be pretty grimy as opposed to a lot of the other tech stuff out there. So I think
Mm.
I like that duality between the sludgier, filthier stuff and then getting to geek out at the same time.
Yeah. There's an American band, I believe they're American, called Pound. I don't know if you're familiar
I
with
do
them.
not.
It is a drummer and a guitarist who appears to be playing some bizarre bass, like guitar that's got both bass and normal strings on it. And it is absolute chaos. Each song title, it's impossible for me to even say it because every song title is just all dots and dashes and stuff. There's no vocals, and it's just you can't listen to it for more than 2 or 3 minutes at a time. It's
That sounds
amazing.
perfect.
Yeah, it
How
is
do you spell that again? The name? I have to check
Pound,
those guys.
Pound.
Oh,
Like pound. Okay, nice. Check that out, definitely.
Yeah, it's
That's nice. I think
not
some of the interesting things is we've talked about, Alex, is the way that the music comes together for us is uh, a lot of influences, of course, right? So and how we are like brought ourselves up musically with uh, all of the mixture of going into the extreme in different genres, but always heading for the good melody or for what is the most what is the best thing for the song at this given moment in the arrangement. And we've done a lot of geeking out of doing a lot of more like montage stuff, being a kid brought up on Mr. Bungle and stuff like that, where everything is possible, but somehow you need to find some sort of like red thread in the madness, so it has some sort of like artistic depth, which means that you are able to express your artistic ambitions, and that's what we've been doing a lot. We talk a lot. We the way that we prepared the Primordial Blues was just talking and more about books and movies and stuff like that instead of hey, listen to this riff, man, and yeah, let's just go chaotic like this, and then and I program this crazy drum fill thing that I can't play, but I'll learn it, and then everything's just fucked. So it's more it has a lot of the intuition is of course very very important, but it's in the same time it has to be in the sense of the whole, like the organic wholeness or the oneness of the piece of work, which for example the Primordial Blues is, which is a lot of gratitude to Alex, because he has, during the writing process, he had like really eye for the red thread, because he also write the lyrics and the conceptual things, which is very, very important for us. So yeah, that's how we, yeah, at least Mike, that is at least how I experienced the work with the Primordial Blues. I don't know if it makes sense for you, Alex.
Oh yeah, definitely. But it's true. We spent almost a year talking before writing anything for this record.
it's funny that you mentioned Bungle because I was just about to mention Mike Patton in that your music very much reminds me of something that he would do. And similarly, like it's amazing, isn't it? Like that creative spark that can come out and create some some music that's beautiful, some music that is absolutely horrific, and suddenly, and it's this collision of the two. I remember the first time someone showed me the work of John Zorn, the
Oh
composer
yeah.
that the album Painkiller, which is
Yeah, yeah.
literally just absolute, like it's like grindcore's ugly cousin, like this horrible, horrible noise. But my God, there is something so incredibly pure about it. Like it is
Mm,
pure creativity made by scarily talented people.
mm.
Like mm, I love it. That would be, I can imagine you and Mike Patton would be able to make some absolutely beautiful noise together.
Yeah, I think so too. The problem is getting Mike Patton to see that as well.
Look, we'll bully him. Bullying.
Yes, yes, this is the way.
But Alex, can you remember? You remember when we tried to shop the record, or was it the Skeleton record round
Yeah, yeah,
in the beginning? Like there was only out of like 120 labels around the world, there was only two who responded, which was Ipecac and Nefarious.
yeah. Ipecac being Mike Patton's
Yeah,
label.
of course. Well,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
just gotta
exactly.
we've just got to bombard Ipecac, and eventually it will happen. I'm sure of it.
As am I.
What would it got me interesting, like the term heaviness when it comes to music, I find really interesting because you can put, I don't know, some really intense black metal on one side, and then you've got Helmet, on the other side. Both completely different genres of music that can create tones that are in their own way just absolutely flattening. And I was like, how do you view it? What are maybe some bands that you see as what that you think of when you think of the term heavy?
That's a great question. And please, I sense already that I might go off on a tangent here, so please stop me if I.
Yeah.
But I think to me it's, and this might sound weird coming from OXX, but to me at least, and the way the approach I've arrived at to try to describe it, I think there's definitely a traditionalist element to it, to some extent. Not in the sense that every band has to sound like Black Sabbath in order to be heavy, but there's a clear lineage from that kind of stuff to almost like any one of the bands we'd consider heavy today. And whether it's immediately apparent as it would be with like any of the myriad stoner bands basically rewriting old Sabbath riffs, or if it's further, it could be much further removed from that, like Tech Death or whatever. I think deep down, deep down, most of us are probably able to discern like the way at least some of that stuff is informed by or originates from something from that lineage, whether that would be like super early heavy metal stuff like Black Sabbath, or even further back to like the darker, more grimy aspects of old Delta blues, which is of course maybe the furthest back you can go with that. So I think the being in touch, whether it's overt or not, with that tradition is definitely a key component to the whole thing. At least for me, like, so you mentioned Painkiller, which is a band I love, but these last 20 years, and this has been very noticeable in Denmark, but I think it's an international trend as well, that like jazz bands and jazz musicians, and also ones in like in more traditional parts of the genre than say John Zorn, have become interested in or enamored by heavy metal. I think especially because of bands like Meshuggah and Dillinger Escape Plan, who does a lot of stuff that really appeals to sort of the analytical minds of, say, a jazz drummer or whatever. And so there's been a rise in jazz bands trying to insert like heavy sections or metal inspired sections in their music, and most of the time it fucking sucks. Which is because like, so I tell myself it's pretty obvious when people have a sincere connection to that tradition, and whether or not there's a depth to their understanding and of what it's about. Like, so it's not about the tonal qualities of a riff or how many subdivisions people play beneath it. That's like of course, up until now I've tried to be super analytical about it, but now I have to resort to ineffables. But I think it comes down to whether or not people have a sincere connection to that lineage to some extent, and I think it's noticeable when they don't.
Yeah,
so like,
it's hard to fake, isn't it?
Yeah, but like, say on the surface level, there's almost no similarities between like black metal and sludge, for example, right? Apart from the fact that they both use distorted guitars, the vocals are completely different. The textures are completely different. Like most black metal guitar is super thin and trebly, whereas the sludge thing is way down tuned and thick, and so really, it doesn't have that much in common on the surface level. Like tremolo picking fast beats and super slow backbeats of sludge. It's nothing alike, but somewhere along the line, they both sprung from the same thing, right? And I think part of the heaviness and what we like to define as heaviness and these intangible commonalities between the two. I think a lot of it stems from that.
And I feel too that no matter how it's played or something, that the destination is always the same. You are essentially on stage, plugged into a big amp, trying to get the bloke in front of you move his head like this.
Yes.
And if he does, you've succeeded.
Definitely. That's what it comes down to. And this is also why I get sort of nervous when people keep calling us prog, or which I guess is kind of true. And I don't have anything against that kind of music, but like I think to us it's definitely important to stay in touch with that intent of like in the end it's just a very complicated way of trying to arrive at completely the same thing as I Hate God playing a 4-note riff or whatever. Exactly as you said, getting the fella in the front to headbang.
Yeah.
We just have a very weird way of getting there. But I think you're spot on. That intent is definitely crucial to things being authentically heavy.
What was
I'm sorry. It's just and it's beautifully laid out, Alex, and it's important to have beefs in the band and so on, but I must always be honest to Alex that his way of describing things has a depth which is always enjoyable. The way that I was just thinking that to me it's a sort of like sensibility, I guess, towards it has this to have the sensibility of heaviness, because it can be like and nowadays it's like an athletic sport. It can be like an athletic sport to be like the most technical player ever, or you can, as you for example, Alex said that you can take now this jazz band plays Meshuggah or whatever, and it's like it gets into like a what do you call this in English? Like stiløvelse. I don't know what the name is in English. Boston.
Oh, I'm not sure. It becomes like affectation.
Maybe it's just like you just So that it isn't like profound. It isn't. It's more like just another section of a learning book or something. Like so you have to learn it to just be able to do it. Then I also teach drummers. Like I'm a drum teacher as well, and sometimes I find more heaviness in like a 14-year-old who is sensible towards some, like the lineage. Maybe his dad or mother has a lineage of Delta blues, playing Black Sabbath, like telling this youngster about like something that really appeals to this young guy or girl's kind of humanity in a way and sensibility, and then they play like heavier than I don't know, Mike Portnoy or something.
I feel like it's not hard to play heavier than Mike Portnoy, because I did once watch him play on a Hello Kitty drum kit.
He's a bro. He's totally a bro, but he's also a funny bro. Yeah.
Seems to have a good sense of humor, which I think is sorely missing in a lot of people these days.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I guess if we were talking before about labels and Ipecac and all that kind of stuff. If you could put something out into the universe, like who would be like a dream tour collaboration for you guys?
That's a great question. I'm just going to start talking while I think it over. But I think the tricky thing about that is that, and this is going to sound douchey, but like there's a real prevalence of insecure narcissists in rock music, including us probably, but you know, like I think something to consider when making wishes like that is the interpersonal dynamics just as much as uh, the aesthetic commonalities or whatever. I think for me, by far, the most important part of touring with someone is whether or not it's actually a good time.
Yeah.
But for a dream tour, let me think.
Like collaborating with, like writing music, right?
I was
No,
just
no, no,
thinking
touring,
more
touring.
Not
potentially
touring.
touring.
Ah,
Yeah.
oh, okay, yeah. Uh,
I think
uh,
for me, it's mostly about whether or not, because the other band would definitely be the headliner since no one cares about OXX, right? So the most important factor would be whether or not the other band they have a fan base or their listeners are open to the particular kind of weirdness that we bring, right? So the sweet spot would be someone who where we'd feel like what they bring to the table and what we bring would sort of contribute to a varied and interesting night of music, and in a way that makes people not immediately hate us as soon as we take stage. I remember when I was 10 or 11, I went to see System of a Down in Copenhagen, and they had the Dillinger Escape Plan opening, which was a super ballsy move, but like half of the audience were fucking preteens like me, right? So we were not at all prepared for. I'd say for me probably like anything of what Greg from Dillinger is doing at the moment.
Mm.
Preferably probably the Black Queen, his electro pop project with Stephen Alexander and the guy from Telephone Tel Aviv. I'd really like that.
It's
Um,
it's interesting that you're talking about that it was like a risk for System of a Down to have Dillinger opening. Dillinger Escape Plan once played a double bill with Old Dirty Bastard from the Wu
yes,
Tang
yes,
Clan.
I've heard that. That's beautiful. That's so great.
Can you imagine those scenes coming together? Like these hip
Yes.
hop guys up the back going, "What the fuck is this guy doing?"
Yep.
that's that's a beautiful lineup. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that's one of my
great.
favorite pairings ever. I love that story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, what I would have paid to have been a fly on the wall at that gig. That would have been amazing.
And it's the whole touring thing is that it's become very important also to because we've also changed our way of being in a way. So like mental health and like being able to, it's not just blasting beers all the time and like just going crazy in that sort of like rock and roll stigma kind of way. So it's a lot about presenting the music the best that we can, and in Denmark the bands that we love to tour with is it's the talk behind the scenes is much more in like deep talks of psychology and philosophy and I don't know weightlifting and stuff like that. Instead of let's go hammer some stuff and let's go to the bathroom, man. That's we got some drugs, whatever. Like all that kind of stuff it has really changed. It hasn't been like a important thing for us at all at any point really, but it's just become very important for us to be able to stay like healthy in a sense and
Mm.
It's
like
grown
being
increasingly
being on.
boring, definitely.
Yeah, but you can say it's boring, but when you tour with people who are, but you can still have you can still go like hard partying, but just in another way. And
Yeah.
I don't know that it's just something that's a bit are more like healthy in the long term, you know.
Probably a bit more money to take home as well.
Yeah, instead of using all the money in the bar after the show, you know.
uh,
I think I'm thinking of another one real quick, if it's okay.
yeah, of course.
Before the whole Scott Kelly debacle, I think the perfect band for us would have been Neurosis, probably.
That would have been awesome. Yeah.
Because, like, yeah, on the surface, the bands are vastly different, and people probably wouldn't grow bored with distorted guitars through a night like that, because it's, yeah, on the surface level, it's so far from each other. But I definitely feel like there's a common ground as well, just two vastly different angles of approaching it.
Mm,
So I think that would have been a good night.
I love it. Guys, this has been awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you
I've got
so
to go
much.
put some kids to bed. Congratulations on the Primordial Suit. It is Primordial Blues. Pardon.
Yes.
Yeah, the album is absolutely stunning. So congratulations, and I hope to see you in Australia someday.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you so much for your time. This was fun.
Yeah.
No worries.
Bye.
Take care,
See you
buddy.
guys.
Hey.
Bye.